Something strange has happened in our public life. We've confused loudness with leadership, and we've mistaken cruelty for strength. I spend a lot of time in classrooms, looking into the eyes of bright, curious students who are about to step into the world. And lately, I've realized we're doing them a profound disservice. We're lying to them about what it means to be an adult. I want to be clear right away. This is not a political observation. It's a developmental one. Because adulthood isn't defined by age, power, or position. It's defined by psychological capacity. In psychology, adulthood isn't about authority or status. It's about the ability to tolerate frustration without needing to humiliate someone else. It's the capacity to hold complexity without collapsing it into mockery. It's the ability to absorb disagreement without turning it into a spectacle. Every society teaches these capacities, but not through textbooks. We teach them through modeling, through who we elevate, through what behavior we reward, through what we excuse, simply because it entertains us. That's why public influence is always psychological. People with visibility don't just express opinions, they model emotional norms. They signal which emotions are acceptable, which behaviors are permitted, and whether restraint is framed as weakness or as maturity. This is where the conversation gets a little uncomfortable, but also more honest. Public figures don't rise in isolation. They're elevated, which means we have to ask what we're responding to, what we're rewarding with our attention, what we normalize by laughing it off or sharing it along. When mockery becomes our public language, it doesn't stay on the stage. It seeps into the culture. It travels home. It shapes how we argue with people we love, how we listen to those we disagree with, and how we treat strangers when we're frustrated. There's also a biological reason we've let this happen. Often, we lower our standards not because we don't know better, but because we're tired, emotionally tired, cognitively saturated by noise, by outrage, by speed. In psychology, we know that under chronic stress, standards drop. The brain conserves energy. We stop asking for depth because depth feels expensive. We settle for spectacle because it's easy. I approach this from psychology rather than public debate because psychology sits upstream from behavior. Long before opinions harden, emotional norms are established. Long before institutions shift, people change what they're willing to tolerate from one another. When I talk about this in classrooms, the room usually gets very quiet. Not because anyone feels judged, but because they recognize themselves in the system. They realize that culture isn't something that just happens to them. It's something they participate in every time they choose a reaction. That recognition is where adulthood begins to return. Adulthood, psychologically speaking, isn't loud. It isn't clever at someone else's expense. It's steady. It's the capacity to hold tension without discharging it onto someone else. It's the ability to disagree without dehumanizing. It's the choice to expect more, not out of superiority, but out of self-respect. Society, like individuals, mature or regress based on what they reward. My hope here isn't to persuade anyone of a position. It's to offer an orientation, one that chooses reflection over reaction, steadiness over spectacle, and psychological adulthood over emotional theater. That's how a culture begins to recalibrate.